Here we are back in Visual Code Studio, and I have created one folder to do video, and right now you can see we don't have anything inside that folder. So quickly let's create the application. Okay, so let's open up your terminal and simply clear your terminal and type npx create next app dot. This will create the next application. So just wait, this process will take a little bit time. So here the installation process is completed. Simply clear the terminal, and here we have to delete this readme file and come here, and we have to initialize the HardHat. Okay, so npx HardHat init. This will initialize the HardHat, so just wait. Click on the first one, enter yes and yes. So here we have initialized our HardHat, and here we have to install couple of dependency. Okay, so simply copy this entire line and pick install and paste here and hit enter and install the dependency. This might takes 1 minute time to complete the installation process. So the installation is completed and we have an empty. Let's bring the terminal down, and here you will find we have couple of folders and files. So after initializing the HardHat, we got the readme file once again. So and here you can see we have just simply delete this API folder, go to this index file, and we have to remove this. Select all and remove and type RAFC and change home. Let's go to style and delete this home module file, CSS file, and delete. And right now this is our global CSS file. Let's come to index and open up the terminal and initialize the app. So type npm run dev, click on this 3000, and here you can see our application is open and we can see everything's working fine. And side by side I have also opened the demo applications which we are going to build, so we can look through that. Okay, let's bring the terminal down, close all the files, and here our package.json file which contain all the information about the npm package which we are using in this project. Okay, so let's clean up the couple of packages, because in this project we're not going to use slint. Okay, so that's the package we're going to remove. So open up your terminal, second terminal, and simply type, let's bring it up, and we have to remove this slint. So type npm uninstall and paste the slint and hit enter. So this will install this package, and we need to uninstall this one as well. So uninstall is completed. Now we have to uninstall this slint config next. So let's clear the terminal and close this terminal. Here we are starting with the clean environments, and this is the slint file. We have to delete this one as well. And let's bring the terminal up, and everything is working fine. Let's create the folder. So first one is going to be context. We'll create one more folder in the root directory. This will call component, and inside the component we'll create a data file, data.jsx, and inside the context we're going to create file by the name constant.js, and inside the context we create one more file, to do list app.js. So these are the folder and file structure of this project. Okay, so let's come to the style, and we have to create the style file for the index home. So index.module.css. Okay, so this is our index CSS file. So simply come here, close this one, and close all the files. Type RAFC and close this constant, close this to do app, and close this index, close this one. So let's close all the files. Now let's go to the contract. So the moment you will initialize your HardHat, it will create couple of files and folders. So this contract folder is created by HardHat, okay? And inside the contract we have a contract file by the name lock.sol, and here this is the demo contract. Okay, so we're going to simply delete this file. Let's create contract and we'll call it to-do list.sol, and here we're going to write our smart contract. So let's bring the terminal and close everything. Type npm install ether. So we're going to install the packages. So the packages we need for communicating our smart contract with the front-end application or the Ethereum blockchain, and we're going to use Web3 model and ethers.js. So let's install that. Now we have to install Web3 model. So here we have installed both packages. Let's come back to package.json file, and here you can able to find all the information. So Web3 ethers.js, close this one. So we have everything, all the folder and file structures looking good. So we are done with all the folder and file structure for this project, and now let me quickly upload this entire folder or data structure to our GitHub, okay? So you guys can get that as a starter code. Open up your browser and type GitHub. Here you will find all the repository, the project which I have worked on. So make sure you can come and you can check from your end. Let's click on new, give the name for your repo. So I'll call it ToDo app video, create repo, and these are the command we have to work, okay? So first we have to type get init, and we have to type get add dot and hit enter. Let's come back, copy this first command and hit enter. Now go back, copy the branch, hit enter. Go back, simply copy the URL of this repo, paste, hit enter, and now we have to push the entire data so to the main. So just wait, this process will take a little bit time. It's depend on the internet speed, okay? We have successfully loaded the entire data to GitHub, okay? So come here and refresh the page, and here you will find all the folders and files which you have created and all the structure. So let's open this component. Inside this we have a data component, and you can see this is our starter code. Here we have the script. Inside that we have our deploy script, and we have this starter code, okay? Let's come back, let's bring the terminal down. First we're going to work on the smart contract and build all the logics. Once we're done with the smart contract, then we'll build the logic and build the connection with our front-end application, and at the end we're going to design the front-end application, okay? So let's start with the smart contract first. So here I'm inside the to-do list smart contract, okay? License identifier, and it will be unlicensed. Then we have to take the Solidity version Pragma 0.8.9, and we have to give the contract, and the contract name is to-do list. Inside that we're going to take a unt type, and this will call id user. So every user will assign an id, so that's why we are taking id, and we'll take a address public, and this will call owner of contract, so the one who will deploy the contract. Now we'll take address array, and it's called creators. So all the users who will create to-do list on this application, or their address we're going to store inside this array, okay? We'll take a string, and inside this we're going to store all the messages to-do list, okay? And now we'll take another unt, and in this we're going to hold all the IDs of the users. So these are the state variables. Come down, we'll take a struct. We're going to define couple of properties to every single user, okay? So let's call it to-do list app, and the first one is going to be the address account, and then we have to take a unt. This will call user id, Then we'll take a string, and this will contain the message of that individual user. Now it's bool, so we're going to check the status of their to-do list. Okay, so that's why this boolean value. This is our struct. Let's come down. Now we have to initialize the event. So to do event, inside that we're going to take the address, it's called index, and we have to call it account. Then we have to take a unt, it's gonna index, and here we're going to hold the user id. We'll take another variable, this will call string, and this will contain the message, and the final one is boolean, which contain the status. So this is our event. Let's come down and let's create the map. Now we'll create a mapping so we can identify all the information about the user on the base of their address. Okay, so that's the approach of taking this mapping. So we'll pass the address, and it will call to-do list app and public, and this will call to-do list apps. So this will contain, so this to-do list apps contain all the information about the users and their properties. To-do list app contain the information about individual. So we'll pass the address, and it will give us the entire detail of that user. So this is how we are mapping. Let's call it small. So this is our mapping. Let's come down, and now we have to initialize our constructor. So owner of the contract is going to be the message.sender. So whoever will deploy this smart contract, that address is going to be the owner of this contract. And here we have taken this variable. So let's come down, and now we have to write the function for creating to-do list. Okay, and now we have to create a function that will increment the user id. So I'll call it inc, and it will be internal. What we have to do, we have to increment the user id. So here we have and plus plus. So this function will increment the user id every time we'll call this function. Okay, we have to take another functions, and here we're going to create the to-do list. Okay, so to-do list, create list. Inside that we're going to pass a string, and we'll call it call data. This will save a little gas price, and inside that we're going to pass the message. It's gonna be external. We have to call the increment functions. We'll take another variable called unt id number, and we have to assign that user id. Then we have to take a copy of our storage to do, and inside that we're going to pass the msg.sender. So we have to type msg.sender. So here I'm taking the copy of my mapping, and mapping contain all the information about the user. So here I have used the storage keywords because I want to change and update the state variables. That's why I have used the keyword storage. So here we are simply mapping from the address to individual creator. Let's come down. So all the properties we have inside this to do, we have to assign that account.message.sender. Okay, so if you come here we have the properties of to-do list app, which all the data we have to provide. So whoever will call the information, their address is going to be the message.sender. Okay, let's come down, and now we have to update the message which we are getting from the functions. So /message. Now we have to get the completed status. Initially it will be false. Now we have to get the user id, so we are going to assign the id number. Okay, so these are the property we're going to set whenever any user or any creator will create to-do list on the application, and all these properties going to be assigned to them. So this is our functions. Now let's come down, and we have to push the address to the creators array, and we have to push the message into the message array, and we have to push the message id to the message id. Okay, so these are the three array in that we are pushing the data. So creator, message, and id, and here we have the three array: creator, string, and now we have to emit the event. So we have to call the to do event, and here I type e, and by the way my e is not working, so if I miss typing e, you guys type e from your end. Okay, so let's come up here and make the change, and here we have to pass the data in the same order, the order we have defined in our event. Okay, then it will work, otherwise it will throw you an error. So let's provide the data in the same order. So message.sender, and now we have to provide this user ID, copy this and paste. Now we have to provide the message, and we have to provide the status, which is this, to complete. This is our event. So these are the function. So everything's looking good. So mapping, we have constructor, we have increment function, and this is the create function we have. Now let's come down. Now let's create one more function. This will call get creator data. And this will pass the address of the creator. So when we'll pass the address of the creator in this function, it will give the complete detail of that candidate. Okay, and it's going to be a public view returns. Let's bracket, and in this we have to define all the data we want to take from the user. Okay, so first one is going to be the address, second one is going to be unt, third one is going to be string memory, and the final one is going to be the status is boolean. Okay, so we are getting some error simply. So everything is looking good, but why we are getting error? Simply cut this and paste one more time, and as you can see, sometime you will have this problem. As you can see, we haven't done anything, but this error is gone. So let's continue working. We'll create the copy of the straight variable, so it will call single user data, and in that we're going to pass the address which we have in the mapping. So here we have used memory keyword because this time we are not doing any changes in our state variable. We are just taking a copy of that so we can call in the function, and we'll get that information on the base of the address we provide in the mapping. So I hope everything is clear so far. If you guys have any comment, or if you are stuck anywhere, do leave in the comment sections. I'll try to reply on that. Okay, that's working on that. So here we have to return all the data about the user. So first one is going to be single user data account. Now we have to return the user ID, then we have to return the message, and the final one is going to be status. So here we have the get data functions for the users. Let's close all these functions, close this one. Now let's come down. Now let's write the function for all the arrays which we have created, like for the messages, for the address, and for the change of state. Okay, let's create a function, and this will call get address. It's gonna be external view and return, and in that we have to pass the entire array, and we have to return the creators array. Okay, so here we have the entire array, and that what we are returning here. Now let's create one more functions. This will call get message and external view return, and in that would be we have to take a string memory and s, and we have to return that. So messages. Now we have to create one more function. This will call toggle, and this function will be reliable for changing the state, whether that to-do list is completed or not. This function is going to trigger and change the state variable. Okay, and that will pass the address, because this is how we're going to find out that which creator completing which task. Okay, and it's gonna be a public, and simply we'll take the to-do list app storage, and we have to get the single user data. We have to get the mapping complete array, and inside that we're going to pass that creator address. And once we have that, we have to change the status. Okay, completed status to completed. Okay, so in this way what will happen, the user can call this function again and again. So if it is completed, then user can turn it to uncompleted, but if it's not completed, then user can turn it to completed. Okay, so this is how the user can switch it forward and backward. Okay, that's why we have taken this approach. Or you can do hard code, but this is the right option to go with when you provide an option to the user, so you can switch forward and backward. Okay, so I guess we are done with this entire smart contract to-do list application. So let's have a look. So this is our to-do list, this is our struct, this is our event, mapping, constructor, increment functions, we have our create list, we have our data, we have the address, we have messages, and this is the toggle functions. So everything's looking good. So simply copy the entire smart contract so we can test. Okay, and open up your browser and visit Remix ID. Okay, so here we are on Remix ID, and here we're going to do the testing of the smart contract. Okay, so let's come here and remove this old code and paste our smart contract. So as you can see, it's successfully compiled because I have the setting in my Remix ID. So whenever I put any code, it will automatically compile the code. Okay, so let's bring this down and let's try to deploy. So here you can see we have everything here, all the functions, all the codes we have. Let's click here, and this is the account. Let's expand this one and let's select the file. So to-do list app and deploy. Here we have all the data, all the function we can use in this smart contract. You can see we have a create list, we have toggle, we have ID user, we have creator, we have get address, we have get creator data, get message ID, owner of the contract, and to-do list app. So all the function which we have defined as a public, that's all we can able to find here. Okay, so let's test that. So right now if I click on user ID, we don't have any user. Okay, that's why it's 0. If we click on get address, it's an empty. If we click on get message, it's empty. And if we click on get owner of the contract, so this is the contract owner, and because we have deployed the smart contract, and this is the account which is the owner of the contract. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's create a list, to-do list. Okay, so I'll simply type, hey, this is my first to-do app. Okay, and click on create list, and let me open this terminal so you guys can see all the call stack. So here you can see we have successfully created our to-do list, and you can see this green tick. Let's click here, and here you can able to find all the information about the function call. So here we have the transaction hash, here we have from, this is to, and the function you have called, this is the gas limit, transaction cost, execution cost, and this is the message, and this is the event which we trigger. Okay, so let's bring this down, and here we have the events, so all the logs which you can find right here. So everything's working fine as we expected. Let's come here and let's check whether the data is updated or not. Let's click on user ID, we have one user. Okay, let's click on get address, we have the address, and let's click on that get message, and here we have the message. So all the function is working fine. So this message is an array, and message ID is also an array, so we have to put the index. So first is going to be 0. Okay, so on the 0 index we have this message, and on the 0 index we have this ID. So all the function is working fine. So here we have to get the complete data. Simply copy this address because this is the user. Copy the address and simply paste here and click here. So here you will find all the information about the user who created that to-do list. So here we have the account address, user ID, string, the messages, hey, this is my first to-do app, and the status, whether it's completed or not. So it's also working fine. Let's come up here, and here we have to use this function, toggle functions. So for that we need to take the address. So this is the state is false, we have to change this to true. Okay, so simply come here and paste the address. Simply copy the address of the user and paste here and call this toggle. As you can see, the transaction is successful. Let's come here and we have to click here, it's true. means our function is also working fine. Let's bring down. So all the functions are working fine. Our smart contract is 100% working. Let's come back to our code editor. So with this we are done with the smart contract, but let me tell you one thing, this smart contract has a lot of vulnerability. Right now you can see that everything is working fine, but there is a lot of problem in the smart contract. Anybody can hack the smart contract, change the entire data, and take the entire contract from you as an owner to their name, to their address. So at the end of this project, once we complete the entire front end and make our smart contract communicate with our front end application, then we're going to make it more secure. We're going to test this smart contract, and we're going to use couple of tools to test and try to find out all the vulnerability. Okay, so I just want you to just understand the code whatever we have written so far, and try to understand where is the problem, what kind of problem. So what I want you, so before you proceed ahead, just sit and try to understand the entire smart contract and try to find out the vulnerabilities which the smart contract contained right this moment. There is a lot of problem in the contract, so just analyze it for 10 to 20 minutes and then you can continue with this project. Okay, so everything is working fine. Let's close this, come here. Now open up your terminal. Let's up, and now let's deploy the smart contract. Okay, so just create one more terminal. So we have two terminals. Type npx HardHat node. Okay, so this will initialize the HardHat in our search console. So right now you can see we are getting this error, address already in use. Okay, because I am already running this port in my other application, so I have to remove that. So let me do it very quickly. Simply type cls to clear the terminal, and now let's start one more time. npx HardHat node. And here you can see HardHat, it is initialized in our terminal, and here we can find close to 10 accounts which HardHat provides, and each account contains 1000 ether, which you can utilize it to test your smart contract. Okay, so we're going to use these accounts. So I have already imported couple of accounts in my MetaMask, and that account I'm going to use to test my smart contract. So I'll tell you how you can do that. Okay, so these are the accounts we have. Make sure you keep running this HardHat node. Okay, and then we have to deploy the smart contract. If you stop this HardHat, then your smart contract will not deploy. Okay, and you will get an error. So let's come to this terminal, and here we have to type this command. So let me find out the command which I want to type. Okay, so let me go up. Okay, this is the command you have to type. Simply type npx HardHat run script deploy.js, and we have deploying this smart contract to our local host. Okay, that's why we have given this network to localhost. Okay, this is the entire command you have to type. Okay, and let me tell you where we have this deploy file. So inside this script you can see this is the deploy file we have. Okay, so let's bring the terminal down, and here we have to do a couple of changes. Just clear this comments, and here we have a couple of more information. So if you want you can keep this, but I don't like to keep it in my smart contract. Okay, simply remove that all, and here we have to do the couple of changes. Remove this as well, and here we have to provide the name of our smart contract. So what's the name I have given? So ToDo list app. So let's come here in the smart contract and let's try to find out. Let's come here, go up, copy so make it capital. Okay, because this is a convention we are following throughout this entire application. So make it capital, copy. Let's come to the deploy file, and here we have to provide that name, and here we have also provide the name, and here we have to replace this ToDo list, and here we have to also change, but with a small t. Okay, small t. Copy this and copy this one and paste here with a small t, and here we have to also do it. And here I'm logging out the contract address, so we can utilize the address of the contract to communicate with our front-end application. Okay, so that's the setting we have to do in our deploy file. And let's come here and we have to just log out the entire call stack. Okay, so we're going to do that to-do list. So all the deploying data is there inside this. So all the instant of this deployed contract will get inside this to-do list, and that's what we want to console log out to see that what are the properties are there in that instant. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this console log out. I think with this we are done. Okay, so let's open up your terminal, and here it's fine. Okay, this is also look, and simply remove this because we are not passing any data in our constructor. Okay, so this is the deploy file, and if you come here inside the constructor, you can see we don't have to pass any argument inside this constructor, so we don't need to pass that. So let's come here, let's bring it up and simply hit enter. Make sure you type the same script. Okay, npx HardHat run script deploy.js and -- network localhost. Okay, because we are deploying to the localhost. If you want to deploy to any remote networks like Rinky-Bai, Aclery or Mainnet, then you can give the RCP URL to that locations and you can deploy that. So just wait. Once it deployed, it will give you the name, address of the contract. So it's compiled successfully, and here we get all the data about all the instances of this deploy contract. Here you can find all the information. So here we have the address of the contract. Simply copy that, come to this contents, and let's keep it here for a while. Okay, so this is our contract address. Let's come here and let's look at the instances. So this is all the functions, and here you can see this is the function we have defined in our smart contract. An ID user, creating list, string, creators, and the reason we can easily able to access as a function because we have used the public keyword. Okay, that's why you can able to see all this as a function. If you use internal or private, you won't have this. Okay, but because of the public we have assigned to our state variable, that's why we can able to access this. So all this one we have here, we have all the informations, true, address. This is the entire call stacks. Let's scroll, and this is the data. This is the transaction has and the gas amount we have paid. So all the information you can able to find about the deploy contract. So it's working fine. Let's bring this down. Let's come to deploy and let's comment this. Close this one, close. Let's come here in the constant file, and here we have to get the files. First we have to import the ABI of our smart contract. So to do list from and dot. So when you run the deploy command, a couple of folders and files will create it, like as you can see on the right hand side, artifacts, cache. So these are the files we'll create once you deploy the smart contract, and inside the artifact we have our ABI. So let's come here, let's come to the artifact. Inside the contract artifact you will have a couple of folders and couple of folder. Inside the folder you have this to-do list.json. Okay, and this contain all the information about the smart contract, the variables you have defined, the instances. That's all you will have. So simply drag and put that to-do list JSON file inside the context. Okay, just move the file. Okay, here we have the API. Simply come here, and now we can able to access the data. So to-do list.json. Let me repeat one more time what we have done. We have deployed our smart contract. Once you deploy the smart contract, two files will create it, one artifact and one cache. Inside the artifact you will have couple of folder. Inside the artifact folder you will have a contract folder. From that contract folder we have to get the ABI, which is the to-do list JSON file, and that we are dragging and moving to our context, and from there we can easily able to accessing to our constant file. Okay, so now we have to export that. So I'll take a const, and we have to get the address of the contract. So to-do list address, simply copy the address and paste here, and now we have to get the ABI. So to-do list ABI, and here we have to-do list.abi, and let's come here. Inside this we have access to this ABI. Okay, to-do list.json. In this way we can easily able to access all these functions, all this variable. So that's it. We have to, so that's That's the things we have to do in our constant file. So what we have done, we have taken the address of the contract, we have taken the ABI of the contract, and that will allow us to communicate with our smart contract. Okay, close this one and close this one as well. Let's come here to do list app.js file, and inside this we're going to write all the functionality for our applications, for communicating with our smart contract, for creating to-do list. So everything is going to be here as for the data. Okay, for the data. So let's zoom a bit, close this one. So let's type RAFC. This will give us a React functional based component, and we have to import couple of things from React, like use state. We have to import Web3 model from Web3 model. We have to import ethers, and that's coming from ethers. Let's come and do internal import. Let's come here, and here we have the constant file. Okay, so we need to import this file as well. So simply copy this to-do list, and let's say import to-do list address from, that's coming from constant, and we have to import the ABI. Now we have to create a fetch contract functions, and this will allow us to communicate with our smart contract. Okay, so that's why I call it fetch contract. And in this we're going to provide the signer or provider, you can type anything. And here we're going to use the ethers.js package to communicate with our smart contract. So new ether contract, we have to pass the address of the contract, ABI, and the signer or provider. Okay, so this will allow us to fetch the contract. Now we have to export constant to do list provider, because in this project we are using React context API for our state management, for our data management. Okay, so we'll call it react.context. Okay, now we have to export the const. We have to create the to-do list provider, and inside this we have to pass the children. Okay, so let's remove this, and this will call context, and with a small children. Okay, actually we have to remove this one and bracket, and then we have to pass the children with a small c, and we have to return this. Simply remove this one, remove the complete this portion, and inside this we have to return, and here we have the to-do list context. Okay, that context provider we're going to use, and inside that we're going to pass the children. Okay, and here we have to pass the value, and whatever we'll pass inside the value, that would be available for in the entire application. Okay, and that's how we are doing state management. So that's the initial setup. So whatever we are doing, we are just setting up for the applications. We haven't written any logic for our smart contract to communicate with our front-end application. Okay, so we are done with that. Now let's create couple of state variables. Okay, so we'll take a use state, and this will call current account. Okay, current account. Now we have to take one more use state, and in this we'll have the error message. Now we'll take one more use state, and this will call all to do list. So this will contain all the list, and we have to take one more, and this will call my list, so individual list. So these are the variables use state we have declared, and now we have to take one more, and this will call all address. So in this we're going to hold the all address of the users. So those are the use state. Now let's create the functions for connecting our front-end application with MetaMask. Okay, so let's call it connecting MetaMask. Okay, we'll take a variable, check if wallet is connected, and it's gonna be an async function. we'll take a if window.ethereum return set error, and here we have to pass please install MetaMask. So with this line, what we are doing, we are checking that whether the user has installed MetaMask in their browser or not. If they have the MetaMask, then they can continue with the function, but if this function doesn't find MetaMask in their browser, it will throw this error and it will tell them to install the MetaMask. And if you don't know that from where I've got this Ethereum object, so I have covered this thing a lot in my previous video, so I'll link that video in the I button. So watch this complete, like how to create a Web3 decentralized voting applications, where we have built more complex logic. So here I have explained even more in more detail, so that's why I'm not explaining this in detail and showing you all the objects. So once you're done with this, you can watch this video where I have explained everything, okay, in brief with every single object. So let's continue with the application. So if the user have an account MetaMask, then we have to get the very first account. So we have to call await window Ethereum, and we have to request, and we have to use the method. So the method is eth accounts. Okay, so this will give us the account, and we have to get the length of the account. So if it has more than one account, then we have to get the first account. So we'll use this set account, and we'll set the first account. We'll take the very first account because this will return us an array of the account, so we want to get the first account, so that's why we have put 0. So else we have to throw the error message, and we have to say that please install MetaMask and connect and reload. So the reason why we are setting up this reload option, because sometime what happened that the object will not get triggered. Okay, sometime problems happen in MetaMask in injecting the object, so it's always good to allow them to reload the browser. So this is our check wallet functions, and remove this one. We have to take the use effect. Okay, simply copy and come here, and we have to call this function use and pass the function. So every time we reload the page, we'll call this function. Okay, so we are done with this function, and here we have to log out the address of the account. So this is check the wallet connector. Now let's come here and restart the applications. So let's close this terminal and type npm run dev. Click here, close this one, and here our application is open. Now let's inspect element, and let's click here. So right now in our console we don't have any account. Okay, so our function is not triggering. So let's come back here, and the reason why it's happening because we are calling this function inside our to-do list app. Okay, we are not calling this function in our home page, and that's the page we are opening in the browser. So we have to call that function in the home page, then this function will trigger and we'll get the address. Okay, so before we do that, we have to do a couple of setups. So simply copy these functions, and we have to pass inside the value, so we can easily able to access this function in different pages with this context API. Okay, so passed here, so we have this function available. Let's comment out this one, and we have to do a couple of setups so we can use this context. So let's do one thing. Let's come here and go to this app file and app.js, and here we have to set the provider. Okay, so let's come here, let's do an internal import, and here we have our provider. So let's scroll up. So this is the provider we have, to do list provider, and this provider will use to wrap our entire application. Okay, so let's simply copy that. Okay, come back, and we have to import that provider. So import to-do list provider, and that's coming from our to-do, that's coming from our context to-do list app. So here we have our provider, And now we have to wrap the entire application with this provider. So let's bring this down, and we have to take this provider, and we have to simply copy and paste here, and we have to convert this into a arrow function. Okay, it's a normal function, but we have to convert into arrow function. So const this space, and here we have to take this arrow and remove this return, and we have to instantly return this function. Okay, so let's return it instantly, and let's remove this one, and let's wrap this component into a div. Okay, so let's take another div, and inside that we're going to provide this component. So in this way we can easily able to access all the information, all the functions, all the data throughout our entire applications because of context API. Okay, so we are done with this app.js, and now we can able to access that function in different pages. Simply close this one, come here and simply go to this index page, and here we're going to access the data and the function of check wallet connection. Okay, so for that we have to import couple of things. So first we need use state, we need use effect, and let's come here, we have to do internal import. But before we do internal import, we have to use context, use this one as well. Let's do internal import. So let's import the icon. Okay, so import md verify. Okay, and that's coming from React. And by the way, we haven't installed React icons, and in this project we are using React icons. So let's open up your terminal and stop the applications, and let's install React. So before we do that, let's import the other files. So we're going to import that, our context. So let's come up here. So this is the one, context, to-do list context, and that's coming from our dash context and to do app. So in this way we can able to access the entire data. So let's come down, and here we'll take a variable, and inside that we're going to pass all the variables which we are passed in the value, and that can be able to access here. So we have to use this use context, and in that we have to pass this to do list context. So simply copy this check wallet functions and pass here, because we have passed as a child in our and as a value there in our provider, and this is how we can able to access. So right now we have this function access. Now we'll use this use effect, and in this we're going to call these functions, and now we can able to see the account. So let's start the application, npm run dev, open in the browser, and here we are. Just wait. So here everything's working fine. Now let's open inspect element, go to console, click here, and right now you can see here in the info section, here we have access to the data, the information of the account. So you can see this is the account which we are getting, and if we open the MetaMask, copy the account number 2, because that's one we are connected with this application, copy, and let's open this and paste here. As you can see, the account which we have detected with our functions and the account we have copy, both are same. Okay, and this account is same. That means our function is working fine. So let's close this one, come back to our applications, let's bring this down. So it's working fine. Let's close this for a while, and now let's come to our app to-do list, and let's continue working on this applications. Simply remove this one, and let's create a one more function and connect wallet. Okay, so we'll have a button on that will allow them to click and connect wallet. So it's gonna be async function. Simply copy this and paste here, because the same check we have to do, we have to check whether they have MetaMask or not. If they have, then we have to get the first account, and this time we have to change the method, because this time we are calling this function on click event. Okay, so this time we have to call eth request account. So this is the method we have to call, and once we have got the account, we have to set the account. So set current account to the first account. So that's connect wallet function. simply copy and paste here. Okay, let's close here. So this is our check if connect wallet. Now let's create other functions. So let me comment this. So interacting with our smart contract. So now whatever function we're going to create from right now, that's all going to be related to our smart contract. Okay, so this function will allow the user to create to-do list. Okay, so let's call it to-do list, and it's gonna be an async functions, and it will receive message, and we'll take this try and catch. So if anything goes wrong, we have to catch that error, and we'll use this set error, and we'll simply pass the error to this. So something's wrong creating list. Okay, and here we have to communicate with our smart contract. So connecting with smart contract, and now we're going to use Web3 model to connect with our smart contract. Okay, so we'll take a variable called Web3 model, and we'll use new Web3 model. That function will call. So here we have that, and that's what we are utilizing here. And now we have to build the connection. So await Web3 model dot connect. So this is the function is available on Web3. Okay, so that's what we are calling. And now we have to create a provider, and we'll use new ether dot provider dot web3 provider, and in this we have to pass the connection. So whatever we are doing right now, we are just setting up the stage. Okay, so here we have the provider. Now we have to get the signer, and the signer is available on provider dot get signer. Okay, and now we have to make connection with our smart contract. So contract, and we have to call the functions await, and we have to call the function fetch contract. Okay, inside that we have to pass the signer. So here we are using this fetch contract function we have created on top and passing the signer. And let's console log out the contract. Okay, contract. So let's copy this. Everything is working well. Let's remove this message for a time being, and let's try to access the contract variables. Okay, so simply copy this to-do list and paste here, and now we have access to this function. So we'll import here in our index file, and we're going to call the function here. Okay, let's come to the browser and reload the page, because we have use state. So whenever we reload the page, we can able to trigger the functions. And let's inspect element, and let's see, open this console, and here you can see we have the address and we have the contract. This is the address we have, and this is the contract. Inside the contract we have all this method and function is available. The first one is, you can see the address, we have couple of methods, and the function we have created. So as you can see, created, get created data, get address, get messages. So all the function we can able to have, and we are successfully connecting our smart contract and communicating with our frontend applications. Okay, working fine. Let's come back, simply go to this, and let's continue working on this. Remove this one, and now we have to create the to-do list. Okay, so here we have to pass the message, because to create a to-do list we have to get the message from the user, and we'll take a variable called create list. It's gonna be await, and we have to call the contract, and we have to type the name of the function. So let's come back to the Solidity code, smart contract code, and here we have to copy this function, because this is the function we are, so because this is the function will create the to-do list, and inside this we are passing the message. Okay, so simply copy the functions and pass the message here. So, and now once the user is created, and now we have to wait. Okay, and console log out the entire data which is inside this create list. Okay, so console.log and create list. So in this way we can able to see the entire call stack, like transaction hash, block number, everything. So working fine. So this is our create to-do list functions. This function is reliable for creating to-do list and setting up all the property which we have defined in our smart contract. Okay, So let's come down and let's create other functions. So let's create all the functions, and when we'll communicate with our front-end application, and that time we're going to check, because we already know that our function is working because we have tested in Remix ID. So let's create get to-do list. So this function will allow us to get all the data about the user, about the messages, about the addresses. So this is the function we're going to call it for getting data from our smart contract, and gonna be an async function. We have to use this try and catch, and the error message we have to set simply copy and paste here, and we have to call it getting data. Remove this one, copy this and pass here in our value so we can able to access in other values, and simply copy the upper code, copy the code and simply paste here, because this code is going to be remain same, because this is what we have to do whenever we want to communicate with our smart contract, because this code will allow us to communicate with our smart contract. So we have to use the same code. And if you think that it's repetitive code, then you can do one thing, you can create a separate functions and you can use that function wherever you want to use this code, but I'm going in this way approach. Okay, so we have our contract. Now let's get the data. So let's take a variable called get all address. Okay, we have to get all the address of the creators who are creating to-do list in our application. So await contract, and we have to give the function name from us. So let's come here in the smart contract, and this is the function get address. Copy this, and that's the address we have to call it. So this will give us the address of the contract, and this will give us all the address of the candidate. And once we get the addresses, we have to set the address to all address. Okay, now let's console log out all the addresses. Let's come down, and here we have all the addresses, and now we have to, on the base of these addresses, okay, on the base of these addresses we have to get all the data, because one address contain a lot of information, you know, like ID number, message, address. So we have to get all the addresses of every candidate, and all the address is available inside this get all address. So we're going to loop over this. Okay, so we'll use map. Okay, we'll pass, it's going to be async function, and we have to take a variable called const, and we'll call it get single data and wait, and we have to use our contract. And let's come here, and to get the data we have to pass an address. So here is the function called get created data. Okay, so that's the function we're going to call it, and inside that we're going to pass the address, because this function need address, and it will return all the data of the users, of the creators, okay, which is inside this element. Okay, and once we have the data, we have to set the data to our to-do list dot push, and we have to call this function. Okay, in this way we can able to have the data, and now we have to log out all the data, get single data. Okay, so here we have access all the data of the users. Now we have to take another variable called all messages, await contract, and we have to get all the messages. Simply come here and copy the functions and paste here. This will return all the lists which user are creating. Once we have the list, we have to set the list in our state. Okay, all messages. Okay, we have access to all the data. Simply copy the functions and pass it here. So we have already passed the functions. Okay, so now let's write the function for toggling. Okay, so user can set to complete or incomplete. Okay, so let's write the function for that. So it's called change state of to-do list to false to true. Okay, now we'll take a variable and call change, and going to be async functions, and let's try and catch. We have to set the error message. So this time we'll call it let's say changing state, and copy this entire code, because this will allow us to communicate with our smart contract, and simply paste here. Once we have the contract, now we can call the function. So let's call it state await contract, and the function name is this one, toggle copy, and simply paste here. and inside this we have to pass the address. Okay, the address, and the address will receive here. Okay, when the function will call, we'll pass the address inside this, and it would be available in our toggle function. So it's working fine. Now we have to set the wait, because we have to wait till the end the state is changed and write into the blockchains. When it's all the process is done, then we want to execute further, and then we want to console log out the state. So that's our change functions. Okay, simply copy and pass it here. So we have all the function which we need in this application for giving the creating list, getting data, and changing the state. So all the function we have written, we have all the data. So simply close all this function, close this one, close this one, close this one, and this one. And now we have to, so these are the function. Now we have to pass the data. So we have the current account here, copy this one and simply pass here. Okay, now pass the error message. Now we have to pass this to-do list. Let's go up and we have to pass this list, and we have to pass this final one, all addresses. So we have all the data, we have all the functions, so everything are working fine. We are done with this to-do list app. We have called all the functions, everything. Now let's close this one, and let's close this one also. Close this all folders. Let's come to this index, and now let's start working on our index file, and whatever data we have, now we have to display in our front-end applications. So here we have imported couple of things, so as you can see. So let's open up your terminal, and now we have to import the icon. So the icon we are using from React, so let's install React quickly. So let's open up the browser and type React icons, click on this, and we have to install it. Simply copy, select this one, copy, and simply come here and paste. So here we have React icons in our applications. Now let's clear the terminal, let's bring this down, and now let's import the icons quickly. Okay, so let's remove this one. Let's come back here, and let's look for verified icon and copy this, and this is coming from this material design. Copy this one and paste here, go back, copy and paste the icon name. Let's come here, and now this time search for send. So this time we're going to take this one, and that's coming from remix icons. Copy this one and simply paste here. Let's come here and copy and simply paste here the icon. Now this time we have to get icon for close. Okay, so which one should we take? Okay, which one? So let's copy this one, come back and take it from the same design, same library. Now we need to take the lock. So this is the one, this is coming from here. Copy, go back and copy this icon and paste here, and we need this open one and unlock one as well. So these are the icons we are using in this project. Okay, and we have to import the image, and that's coming from next.js. Okay, next image. Let's import the style file, so called style from, and that file is inside the style dot slash modules. Okay, index. Now we have to import the image, and that's coming from, so we don't have it, so we don't have image here. So what we can do, let's open my other project, the completed project, and from there I can get the image. So let's come here, simply select this one, select the image, and drag and drop in the main directory. Okay, So here we have the image, and by the way, I will provide all the assets, all the colors in the starter file, so you can get there from there. Okay, so here we have the loading images also available, so let's import that. It's in the main directory, so here loading zip, and we have to import the components, data component, and that's coming from component data. So these are the internal and external import we are for this index page, and here we have our context. Let's come here and let's go to this context and copy this, simply copy this entire data on the data we are passing in this value, okay, and bring it here and simply paste inside this. So we have access to all these functions and variables here on the home page, and we can utilize it. Simply remove this one. Now let's start working on the JSS, okay, because we are done with all the data, and now let's start writing the JSX part. So I'll go a little faster here, okay. So we'll take a div, it will have a class called style dot home. Inside that we'll take another div, it will have a class called style dot navbar. Inside that we'll take an image, and it will have the source. Let's remove this one, and we have to provide the loading image. It will also have an alt tag, we call it logo, and we have to provide the width and height. So width 50%, height is also going to be 50%. And here we'll take another div, it will have a class called style dot connect, and inside that we have to pass the dynamic block. So if there is an account, if there is no account, then we have to render this button, and this button contained on click function, and we have to call the functions, okay. And let's connect wallet. So here we have this function connect wallet, and that function we're going to pass here. So when there is no account, the user is not connected with the application, then this button will display and the user can click and they can log into the application. But if they're already connected, then we want to render different button, and in this button we're going to pass the account address, okay, current account dot slice 0 to 20. Only 20 characters of the account I'm displaying. I don't want to display the entire address, only 20 letters, okay. So let's give it this dot. So that's the condition, simple funda. If account is there, if account is not there, then we have to display this connect wallet button. But if account is there, then we have to display this address of the account. You can take it button, I have taken button, but you can take it as a paragraph, it's really up to you. So let's come here, close this one, and let's start the application. So let's type npm run dev and click here. As you can see, as we already log into our MetaMask, so that's why we can able to access the account address, and you can see the button displaying the account address of my current MetaMask. If I come here and open MetaMask and simply try to, this is the address you can see. So if I try to log out from MetaMask and reload the page, so we have this button connect wallet, okay. If we click on this, we can open the MetaMask and we can log into our MetaMask account. So we can pass the credentials. So let's pass the type the password and just wait. And here you can see we are logged into the application, and here the state is changed, and we can display the address of the MetaMask account. So MetaMask is taking a little bit time. So as you can see, finally the process is completed. Now it's completed. Okay, so let's come back. Everything's working fine, the logic is also working fine, and function is also working fine. Now let's come down. We'll take a div and we'll take a class style dot home box. Inside that we'll take another div, it will have a class called style dot home complete list completed, and it will have a text h2 tag and to do history list. And here we have to take a div, and in this we have to render the data, the messages. So my list dot map, and we want to instantly return, okay. And this my list contain all the messages. As you can see here we have this my list, and this contain all the messages, all the to-do list, okay. So that's the logic, okay. We are rendering, looping it, and printing that message on the application. Now we have to take a div, and let's remove this one. We have to take a class. It will call style dot home completed list, and inside that we'll take the icon, verified icon, and let's close this one. And it will have a class style dot icon color, and we have to pass the message. So we have available in EL, and we have to use this slice. So we don't want to display the entire message, so only 30 characters, and that's it. This is the completed list. Now let's come here. We'll take a div, and it will have a class called style home create. Inside that we'll take another div. It will call class name style dot home created box. It will have a h2 tag, and this will call create blockchain to do list. And here we'll take another div. It will have a style dot home create input. Inside that we'll take an input tag, and type is going to be text. Placeholder is going to be enter your to do, okay. It will have a on change function, so E, and in that we're going to call this set message. So we haven't taken that variable. Let's come up here and create a variable. So here we'll call use state, and we'll say message. Initially is going to be empty string, and now we're going to use that function to set the message. So we'll call that function e.target.value. So in that we are able to access the whatever the user will put, that will available in the message. Now let's come here. Let's take the current account. If there is a current account, then we have to take this icon, okay. It will have a class called style icon black, not block, it's a black, okay. See, and it will have a on click functions, and in that function we have to call, okay. So we have to call this one, connect wallet. So this is the function we have to call. Simply copy this, simply copy that, come here, and this is the function we have here, okay. So simply replace this, not connect wallet, we have to call this create list, okay. Simply replace this one here, and now let's bring it here. Simply copy this and paste here, and here we have to call this connect wallet functions, okay. So here what we are doing, if the user is already connected with the application, then we have to display this button to do list, okay, creating list button. But if they are not connected with the application, then we have to display this connect wallet function, okay. So these are the two these are the two different functions we are calling on the base of the whether they have connected with the application or not, okay. So that's the functions. And let's come here, and you can see everything is displaying fine. We have the icons, we have the input, we have account, all the texts are working fine. Let's come here, and we have to take this data component, and inside that we're going to pass couple of props, okay. So here you can see, let's come here, we have passed this more props first, pass inside this, and let's come up and copy this all address, pass this inside that, come up here, and we have to get the list my list and send it as a prop. So these are the data would be available in our data component. Okay, so this is the my list functions which we are rendering completed list. Let's come here and end the thing. Let's come to this artifact. So to check everything working fine or not, let's delete the artifact. Okay, let's delete that. Let's delete this one cache, and we have to delete the API also. This API delete from, and we're going to deploy this contract one more time. So first thing, we have to run the npx HardHat node, then we can only able to deploy our smart contract. Okay, so just wait, let this process get started. So here we have all the account. HardHat is working fine in our console. Now here we have to run this deploy script. Okay, npx to the localhost. So just wait. So compile successful, and here we have the address of the contract. Here we got the artifact, and inside that we got our API. Come to contract, and here we have drag and drop here. So I believe that you guys are getting familiar with this process. Okay, so we have available our API, and now let's start the application. Click on 3000, and here we have the application. Here we have the input, our icons, account is already connected, so everything's working fine. Let's type build your first application. Click on this. Okay, let's build your first application. Nothing is happening. Click one more time. Let's come here. We are connected. Let's come here, go to our main account. This is the account. You can see we have less ether in this account because this is the account is used in deploying the smart contract. And you know, whenever you deploy smart contract and do any kind of change in the state variable, you have to pay gas fee for that. So this is the account we have used for deploying the contract. That's why we have less ether in that. Let's change this and select the account number 5 we have selected. Let's come here, and here you can see here we have all the accounts. And if you want to know how we can import the account, you can do one thing. You can simply copy a API key. Altogether we have 20 accounts. You can copy any account API key. Okay, copy the account and come here, just click on import account, and here you have to paste the API key. Click on import, and here the account is imported, and you have got 1000 like 10,000 fake ether. It's a fake ether. If it's real ether, you would have a lot of money. So here we have the account. Let's do one thing. Let's come back to the account number 5, and here click on this setting and go to this advanced and click on reset. And this is the problem which MetaMask has. So whenever you change your account, you will get an error. All the transaction would be failed. So whenever you change your account, make sure you have to reset that. Then you can able to make the transaction. Otherwise the transaction will get failed. Let's close this and let's try one more time. Reload the page, and let's inspect element to see. So we have the address, and let's type the, come here and type the message. So let's type the message. So let's build together, call the functions. Still nothing is happening. So this function is not even getting called. It's not getting called. That's weird. Let's come back to our code. Let's bring this down, and let's see where is the function we are calling. So here we have the current volley function, and here we have the to do. This is the function to do list. Okay, we have to pass the message. We are not passing anything inside that. Okay, that's the problem. So we have to pass the message. So let's come up here, and we have to get the message, because our contract function needs to have a message. Okay, so let's pass that message here, and if we come here, as you can see, this function need message, and inside that message we are passing to our smart contract. So that was a silly mistakes. So let's save it, come back, reload the browser, and let's type the message, hey Daulat. So if you haven't subscribed and like my channel, do so, because that will motivate me a lot to make more project like this. Okay, so hope you guys will understand. Now click all the functions, and here you can see the MetaMask is open. That means we can able to interact with our smart contract. And here you can see we have the smart contract, the gas price we have to pay for making this transaction, and all the things you can able to find. Click on confirm, and nothing happened. That's weird. So let's open the consoles, and right now we can see we have an error, and it says that the chain ID, something's wrong with our chain ID. So RPC your value is this, trying to send a raw transaction with invalid chain ID. Okay, the chain ID we have provided, it's invalid. So actually we haven't set the chain ID. Let's come back to the editor and go to this, close all this one files, and let's go to this HardHat config file, and here we have to do the configuration for the chain ID and network. So we'll take this network, I have to provide S, and the network we're going to choose is HardHat. Okay, let's zoom it, and the network we are using is HardHat, and here we have to provide the chain ID, and the chain ID is going to be 1337. So this is the chain ID we are providing here. So we are done with this configuration. Okay, let's remove this one comment, and let's close this one, go back to the application, reload the page, and type the message called hey dollar, call the functions. Here we have the MetaMask. Now we have to confirm, and still nothing happened. Let's see, again we are getting the same error. What's the matter? Why it's happening? Trying to send the raw transaction, we have provided the chain ID, expected ID is this. Okay, we have to provide this ID. Okay, simply copy that and come here and go back to the HardHat config file and change this one. So both chain ID work. Okay, I don't know why this one is not working. Okay, let's provide this one, and let's reload the browser, and let's try one more time, and let's provide the message hey dollar, call the function. Here I have the MetaMask, click on confirm, and still we are getting this error. Again we have the same error. Okay, I understand what's the problem. Let's open this MetaMask, and here we have to set the chain ID. So here what we can do, the transaction is failed, and let's click on this network and go to the add network, and here we are in MetaMask, and let's click on this network tab, and here we have to change the chain ID. So here as you can see we have 1337, so we have to change this chain ID. Simply select this and remove this, the one actually recommended, and click on save, and now it will work. Okay, so here we have set the chain ID, working fine. Click close this one and come and reload the page and try this final time. So hey, so first I tried create application, and now my message is getting shorter. So this time hey, and here we have click on confirm, and just wait. Here you can see information, and here our transaction is successful. As you can see we have the information, make it big, and here we have the entire hash, the call stack of this transactions. So we have the confirmation, data, price, everything we can have here about this transaction. So we have successfully created our first to-do list. Let's come back to the application, close this one, and let's go to this to-do list app, and here we had logging out the information. Simply remove this. Well, let's keep it for the time being. Okay, and let's reload the page, and let's close this one, and here we have the data, but the data is not rendering. We have created one to-do list, but it's not rendering. Okay, so where is the function? So here we have my list, this contain all the information, and we have this function get to-do list function. So we haven't calling this function, so let's call the function for getting the data, and here we have this functions. Okay, save it, Let's come back to the browser, and you can see here we have the data. Hey, so we are getting the data. It's also working. So let's do one thing. Let's change the account and let's create one more list, and this time we're going to pick the account number 2, and this time we type this is account 2, call the function, and we have to confirm it, and the transaction got failed. Okay, why it's so? It got failed, and reload the page. The transaction got failed, and the reason what happened, because we have changed the account, we have to reset it. Okay, as you can see, the transaction failed. Come here and go to setting, and we have to reset it one more time, and now it will work, because every time you have to do the changes in the account, you have to reset that. And this is not the problem with your application, it's the problem with MetaMask. Okay, account 2, and now you can call the function, click confirm, and here we have the information. You can see here we have the data, the transaction is successful. Reload the browser, and here you will have the data. As you can see, account number 2, so it's working fine. So let's come back to our code editor. This one is also working fine. Now let's start working on this data component. Close this one, go to this component data, and here we're going to work. So let's come here and let's receive the props. So simply first receive the icons. Okay, copy this one, so actually cut this one and simply paste here. Come back, and we need this icon as well, so select this one and copy and paste here. We need couple of more things. So first we have to import the, let's come here and import this context, paste here, and we have to take the CSS file, because we're not going to create any separate CSS file for this data component, because we have to write a very few lines of code for the CSS. That's why we're going to do in the same index file. Okay, so these are the external and internal import. Now we have to receive, let's import that use context, because that's what we are using for our state management. And here we're going to pass the change function, and this function is coming from our context, so we have to use this use context, and we have to pass that, and here we have to provide this equal signs, and here we have to, okay, let's come scroll down, and here we have to receive all these props. Let's paste this change function here. Okay, so let's come here and simply receive the props. So the first prop we have to receive is, let's come here and simply copy that all to-do list. Now we have to receive the addresses, and come back, we have to receive the list, my list, and here we have the props. And let's come here, let's come and copy this change, and let's send this as a prop. So send this as a props, so we don't need to use that context, and here we can pass it and simply comment this out, because we have the data available in the index file. So why we make a extra, why we add extra code in our data file? Okay, so here we have all the props. Now let's come down, so let's console log out the data. So all to-do list. Okay, let's try to get the list, and let's reload the page and just do inspect element, and here we have the data, and here we are getting function instead of data. Okay, why so? So here we have 4 functions, we don't have the data. We should get data, individual data of the creators, but we are getting functions. Okay, let's comment out this and remove this one, and let's start working on the GSX part. We'll see what's the matter with our all to-do list data. Okay, and we'll take a div. It will have a class called style, dot home create list, and inside that we'll take a dynamic block. And so let's come here and let's go to this data context, and let's come here in to-do list app, and here we have to do couple of changes. We are getting functions, but we have to just simply remove this console logout, and we have all the addresses, and here we have this console logout, and here is the problem. So instead of passing the get single data of the candidate, we are passing the functions. So that's the change we have to do. Simply remove this, and now we have to replace with this get single data. Now we'll have the access to the data, not with the functions, and that's why we were getting the function instead of the data. So now we'll have the data, and now it's looking good. Now we can start working on it. So let's console log out the data, and that's the data we have here. Let's come and reload the page, do the inspect element, and here you can see we have the arrays. So we are getting the arrays of the data. If we open that, inside that we have the list, and as you can see we are in the development right this moment. That's why we can see that it's that's why we can see the data is repeating twice, because it's a natural behavior of React. So if you want to turn it off, you can do the configuration, you can do it, but I'm not going to do it, okay? But when you will deploy this application on a production, on that time you won't have this problem. This only happen in the development, okay? So that's, we have the data, and you can see we have the message, we have the number, we have the status, so all the data we are available. So we have the message, we have the counter address on the 0 index, we have the ID on the first index, message in the second index, and status is on the third index, sorry. And we can utilize this data and display it, okay? Let's come back here and let's simply remove this section, and let's start working on the JSX. Okay, so we'll take a dynamic block, and we'll say if we have the length of the to-do list is equal to 0, then we want to say that no data, and that will say inside the div it will have a class called style dot no data, and the message will display called no data. So if there is no list, there is no to-do list, then we have to display this div with this message, okay? But if there is a list, then we want to display the list. So we'll again take the dynamic block, we'll take the data and we'll loop over it. We'll use map element I, and we're going to return instantly, okay? So inside this we'll take a div, and it will have a say key 1, and we are getting this error, not a problem. Let's continue with that. Okay, we'll see what's the matter with that. Let's continue with the code. Okay, we'll assign a class called style dot home created list app. Inside that we'll take another div. It will have a class called style lock list, and inside that we'll take our icon, lock icon, and it will have a class called style dot lock, and call color. We have to change the color of the icon, and then we want to display the message. Okay, the message is element number 2. Okay, that's where we have the message. Now we'll come out of the div, we'll take another dynamic block, and in that we're going to display the status. So if it's false, then we want to display in this close fill, and it will have a on click function, and in this we're going to call this change function. So when they will click on this, it will change to true. Okay, initially it will be false, and that data we have on the, and inside this function we have to pass the address, and this address is available in 0 index, means element number 4, and it will have a class called style dot icon close, and here we're going to display the, we'll take a class and it will call down, and we'll have a message to down. So So once the task is completed, once the to-do list is completed, we have to turn it to down. Okay, done, sorry, done. So that's the logic we are building here. If it's false, then we have to display this icon with a cross sign, but if it's true, then we have to display this done button, sorry, done message. But here we are getting this error, so we have to wrap this inside a div. So let's take a div, and here we have to wrap this inside a div. So let's wrap it. So right now it's working fine, we have no error, everything's look good. So let's come here. You can see we have the data here with an icon and cross sign. Reload the page, and let's call the change function. So you can see this one is there and this one is there, but why we have this p? Let's come here and let's see. So here we have this p, remove this one, we don't need to display the p, and changed, and look good. Now let's call this change function. Okay, so once and that change function we have on the cross sign. So let's click on this cross, close, and here we have the MetaMask, and we have to toggle it. So let's click on confirm, and the transaction is successfully. Reload the page, and here you can see it's done. So we have changed the state, so it's done. So this task is done. So the change toggle function is also working, and we can able to change the states. So it's working fine. So let's close this one. So this, close this one, close this one, and close this one, close this one, close this one, and let's come here. And with this we are done with the entire application structure, folder and file structure, and the logic. Now we're going to style this application. Okay, so let's bring it here and make this side by side so you guys can see what we are working on. So we are done with the entire logic, entire functionality of this codes, and now we're going to work on the styling part. And once we done the styling part, then we're going to try to figure out the vulnerability. So how we can manipulate this entire smart contract, how we can change it and hack it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do once we do the entire styling. Okay, so let's start styling. So we're going to take a background image. It's going to be a linear gradient to right top, and we have to provide the color. So #2D0036. The second one is going to be 4F015B. Third one is going to be 730283, and the fourth one is going to be 9A02AC, and C400D7. So these are the 5 color we are using. The height is going to be 100 VH, and width is going to be 100 VW, and overflow X is going to be hidden. So that's the general styling. Let's save it, and you can see the change on the browser. So everything's working fine, look incredible. Let's come back here in the index CSS file, and let's start styling this portion. And width is going to be, let's say, 70%. Margin is going to be 3 RAM auto. Display is going to be flex. Justify content space between. Background is going to be 231E39, and border radius is going to be 0.5 RAM. Padding is going to be 1.5 RAM and 2 RAM. Align item is going to be center, so this is how it will look. Now let's get the connect button, and background color is going to be 9A02AC. Padding is going to be 0.5 RAM and 1.5 RAM. Font size is going to be 1 RAM. Border radius is going to be 0.2 RAM. Cursor pointer. Color is going to be completely white, so this is how it will look. Looks good. Now let's target the home. Width is going to be 100%. Height is going to be 100%. Position is going to be relative, and margin bottom is going to be 2 RAM. Home box width is going to be 70%. Margin 0 auto. Border radius is going to be 0.5 RAM. Padding 2 RAM. Background color to 3E9. Okay, second primary. And box shadow is going to be 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 15 pixels. RGB a 0 0 0 0 0 0.35. okay, this is how it will look. Now we have our color is going to be our third primary color, B3 B8 CD. okay, this is how it will look. Now we have to provide display is going to be grid template column 1.5 RAM, and this will be 3 FR. Gap is going to be 1 RAM. Let's come down, and home completed. Padding is going to be 1 RAM. So looks good. Home completed H2. Font size is going to be 2 RAM. Home completed list. This will be display flex. Align item center. Gap is 1 RAM. Home create box. Padding is going to be 1 RAM. So this looks good. Home create box heading 2. Font size is going to be 2 RAM. Home create input. Width is going to be 100%. Background color is going to be 9A02AC. Padding is going to be 1 RAM. Border radius is going to be 0.5 RAM. Width is going to be 90%. Background color transparent. Border none, 0, and outline is going to be none. Home create input placeholder. Color is going to be our second primary. Icon black. Color our second primary. Font size 1 RAM. Cursor pointer, so here itself. Home created list app. Display flex. Align item center. Gap is 1 RAM. Justify content space between. Margin top is going to be 1 RAM. Border bottom 1 pixel solid, and our primary color. This looks good. We have this one, but we can render this multiple time, and as I told you that we are in the development, that's why we can able to see this double rendering. But once we deploy this one, we don't have this problem. Or if you want, and if this thing is bothering, you can easily able to configure this in your code. Okay, so let's come here. We'll target the lock list, and it will have a display flex. Align item is going to be center. Gap is going to be 1 RAM. So here we have the cross icon, and let's target lock color, and let's change this to background color to our primary color. And border radius is going to be 0.2 RAM. Cursor pointer. Okay, color is going to be completely white, so it's look good. Okay, lock sign with this. Let's provide get the icon close, and color is going to be the primary one. Cursor pointer, and font size is going to be 2 RAM. It would be look quite big, so here we have that icon. Let's target the done. Border 1 pixels dotted, and the primary color. Padding is going to be, let's say, 4 RAM. Okay, it's so big. And font size 2 RAM. Oh, really big. So we have to change this one. So let's remove this one, and padding is going to be 1 RAM, 1.1 RAM and 0.5 RAM. So this looks good. Done. Now let's get the no data. Text align is going to be center. Padding going to be 4 RAM, and font size is going to be 1 RAM. So let's reload it, and things are looking good. We have the data, that's why we can't able to see that no data. And let's add the media query. So max width is going to be, let's say, 35 EM. and navbar is going to be, width is going to be 95%. So this is how it will look, and margin 1 RAM auto. This look good. Now we have to get the home box. Width is going to be 95%, and grid template column is going to be 1FR. So this looks incredible. As you can see, it's responsive for small devices as well. Now let's get the home completed H2, and we have to set the font height to 1.5 rams, little smaller, and we have to do the same thing to the other one. So this is a box 2, and font size is going to be 1.5 ram. So now it's looking fine. As you can see, it looks perfect, and this is how it would look on a mobile phone. Let's click on this and let's try to call the functions, change functions, and here we are interacting with the smart contract. Click on this confirm, and let's reload the page. Things are working fine, looking good. Now let's do one thing, change the account, and let's come here, pick the another account, and let's type the message. So I'll call it account 3. Call the functions, and here we have the MetaMask. Click on confirm, and nothing happened. Reload the page, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Again reload the page, nothing happened. Okay, so can you guess what is the problem? Because we have changed the account and we haven't reset that, and because of that we are having this problem. So let's come here and let's do the changes, actually reset that. So let's open the MetaMask, and the transaction is failed. Let's come here, go to the settings, advanced, and scroll down, reset account, and now it will work. Okay, now it will work. Let's come here and type the message. Like and subscribe to my channel, like and subscribe to the video. Okay, call this one function, and click on confirm, and let's reload the page, and boom, here you can see we have that list here, and we can call the functions and simply click on this confirm and reload the page, and here we have the list. So everything's working fine. We are done with this application. This is our files. Let's close all this one and let's make it big. So if you have coded till now, I want to congratulate you that you have made a huge effort enhancing your learning. So we have designed this beautiful UI, built this all functionality of our smart contract, and creating this to-do list app. But now let's talk about the vulnerability, the problems we have in the smart contract, and what are the problems you can face right now, or you can check, and how we're going to fix that. Okay, so let's talk about the problem first. So here we are back in Visual Code Studio, and to show you the problem we have in this applications, what I have done, I have deleted the artifact, our cache, and the ABI of the contract. So we're going to redeploy the contract, and let's come here, and you can see, let me close this, still running. Let me close this one, and let's clear the terminal, this one. Now let me restart the npx HardHat node internal server, and now we're going to redeploy the smart contract. So this process started. So here it's working fine. Now we have to deploy this contract, compiling successfully, and here we have our contract. So here we have the artifact. Go to contract and drag and drop into this context. Okay, we have the ABI, npm run dev, and let's click on this, open this, and here you can see our check wallet function is already working. Whenever someone visits the application, the check wallet function will get triggered and we can log in from here. Okay, if you cut this one, so we have this option as well. If you click here, you can see the number 1. I don't know why it's not displaying, but you can see this number 1, and you can click it from here as well. So you can see, and let's type the password. So here we are back into this applications, and now everything's look cool. There's no problem in this, everything's working fine. We have our address of the account, and before we create, you know the drill, we have changed the account, so that's why we have to reset that. Okay, so let's come to this, go to advanced, and we have to reset it one more time. So this time we are using account number 2, so no problem. What account? Let's see what account we are using. Okay, that's very important. So here we have on account number 3, so let's start with account number 2. Okay, so we'll type something like, okay, because we have changed the account, we have to reset it one more time. So let's come here, we are using account number 2, now we have to reset it. Okay, advanced, go to this and reset here, and now reload the page, and let's type that my first to do list, and click on this. Here we have our MetaMask, and just wait and click on confirm. The transaction is successful, and if I reload the browser, so here we have the information. So whenever we are calling any function, we have to manually refresh the browser. So that's the very first problem we have, which we're going to fix. Function we have. Okay, that's the one problem. Now let's come here, let's pick the account number 2. So it's account number 2. Now let's change the account, and let's call this account 3rd. And before we do that, we have to reset this, and this is quite hectic one. Okay, and let's reload the page one more time, and this time we have to call hey Schwab and call the functions, and okay, confirm. Okay, reload the page, and okay, we have created 2 to-do lists. It's rendering twice because we are in the development. So we have created 2 lists. Okay, one we have created with account number 1, account number 2, and the second one is account number 3. And right now we are on the account number 3. Okay, so if I simply remove this, because I have created this hey Schwab buy with account number 3, so I can easily able to toggle it. Okay, I can easily able to toggle this to done, toggle it done. And if I reload the page, you can see this done. But what do you think, if I call this toggle, I can able to toggle it or not? So let's try it. Okay, and let's try to change that. The transaction is successful, and I can easily able to change it. And that's the very big problem we have in the smart contract. Why? Because someone else can call these functions, because this one is created by the first account, second account, but third account is can call the function and change the state. So this is a very big bug we have in this. Okay, what I can do now, if right now, so that's the second bug we have. And right now let's come here, still let's open it. Yeah, so what if happened, so right now we have used this account number 3, and we have created this, and this is the one we have used with account number 2. But what if I create the same to-do list with the same account? What will happen on that time? So let's try it. So this time came hey DAULAT $HUSSA. Okay, this time if I call this function, you will see the problem. And here we have it. Let's call the confirm, and let's reload that page. And here you can see, the previous message we have written, hey Shweb, that is also changed by this hey Daulat, and the state is also got changed. So do you think why it's happened? Do you have any idea why it's happened? Because instead of hey Daulat twice, it having 4 times. Because in our smart contract we have a problem. Because here, if we come here in our smart contract, the moment we are fetching the data, so this is the function get created data, and that data, what we are saying, we are passing the address, and on the base of the address we are getting this all informations. But we are not keeping any track, because one address can contain multiple messages, but what we are not keeping on track of that. What we are doing, that if the same account is calling this function twice, it's changing the entire information, this message with the new one. So all the old data is replaced with this new one. Okay, so we are not tracking this. We have no logic for this one, get data here in our mapping, because one address contain one information, it can contain 2 information, but we are no track of the messages, because the message is going to be the same. And the problem we have in our smart contract is here, because when we are fetching the data, what we are passing this address, and the base of this address we are getting all these data, and this data we are getting from this mapping. So this mapping contain all the data. In this, what we are passing the address, and it returns the address. But we are not keeping track of the messages, because one account can have multiple messages, but there is no logic in this contract to handle that portion, that logic of the applications, and that's creating the problem. Because whenever the same user calling this create functions, what it doing, it updating the old messages, old to-do list with the latest one. And that's why you have seen here the old hey Sweb Bhai is changed to hey Daulat, because we don't have any track. So when you create one to-do list with one account, that would be working fine. But when you will create this on one more to-do list with the same account, it will change the previous data. So that's the very critical problem we have in the smart contract. So do you think how we can handle this problem? Any idea you guys have? So in this, I want to give you a hint. So I'm not going to solve this problem in this video. I want you guys to solve it and write down the solution in the comment, but I'll tell you the hint that how you can do it. So you can see here we are mapping on the base of address, but instead of mapping on the base of address, you can do one thing. You can take the ID, because every time we are creating to-do list, we are creating one new ID. Okay, one new ID every time we are one new ID we are assigning every time to one message. So this ID is going to be the unique to that message. Okay, so instead of passing the address, you can pass the ID, and that ID will give you the data. And same thing you have to do here. Again, I'm telling you, I'm not going to do it. It's a very simple bug which you can easily fix it. Okay, so instead of passing the address, you can pass the ID and call the data. Okay, in the same way, in your front-end application where we are building the logic, where we are calling all these functions, instead of passing the address, you have to pass the ID. Okay, so that's the hint I want to give you all. So the major problems you have to solve is no one else can call the function like toggle functions. So if I create account A create a to-do list, so only can account A can call that toggle function on their to-do list. But this function is global, anybody can call this, any user can call on any user. So here you have to do also check. Instead of passing the address, you can pass the ID, and you can associate that ID to a specific user. Okay, so that's the hint I want to give here. And you have to do the changes here when you are getting the data, and you have to do the changes in the mapping, and when you are getting the data, you have to get on the base of the ID. So that are the 3 or 4 changes you have to do. And one more change you have to do is that everything is rendering twice. Okay, you can see everything is rendering twice, which is happening in the production. But I want you guys to tell me that how you can configure this. Okay, do a Google search, try to search on Google and try to find out that how you can fix this problem. Okay, so these are the 2 major problems you have. and do give me your solution in the comment. And once I get enough solution, and if I think that you guys really want me to make a dedicated video on this problem, that what are the other configuration we can do, what are the other testing we can apply on this smart contract. There is a tons of things, there is a lot of vulnerability here in this contract. So if you want me to make a dedicated video on that, first you have to give me your solutions. Just try it, no problem, it is wrong or right, just try and give me your solution in the comment. And if I find enough comments that you guys really want me to make a dedicated video on this error handling in the auditing of the smart contract, then definitely I'll make it, okay, and make it. So I hope you have found this tutorial project valuable. If you have any questions or in doubt, leave in the comment sections, and all the codes are already provided to you, all of you guys. So hope you have enjoyed this, and if you are new to my channel, hit like and subscribe. That will motivate me to come up with this new video and new project, and I will also learn, you will also learn, so we have to help each other. So that's it. Have a wonderful day and have a great day, and do give me your solution in the comments. So take care, bye bye.